When Red Dead Redemption 2 ended, it didn't just close a story, it cemented itself as one of the greatest pieces of storytelling in video game history. Arthur Morgan's journey, John Marston's redemption, and a world so alive it still feels like it's breathing years later. But ever since that final ride through the mountains, one question has haunted fans everywhere. Will Rockstar ever make Red Dead Redemption 3? And if they do, what could it possibly be about? To understand whether there'll ever be another Red Dead Redemption, we have to go back to how Rockstar builds its stories. Unlike most game studios, Rockstar doesn't rush sequels. They build worlds that last decades. Between Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, there were 8 years. Between Grand Theft Auto V and its upcoming sequel, there's a 12-year gap. That's because Rockstar doesn't just make games, they make eras. And the Red Dead series is more than a western. It's a reflection of time, morality, and the end of freedom itself. So the question isn't if they'll make another one. It's when and what story is left to tell. Let's start with where we left off. Red Dead Redemption 2 was a prequel to the original game, following Arthur Morgan and the Van der Linde gang as the Wild West began to fade. By the time Red Dead Redemption 1 begins, we've already seen the consequences: John Marston's struggle to atone for his past, and the slow death of the outlaw way of life. Thematically, both games are about endings. The end of the gang, the end of freedom, the end of the frontier. Which raises the question, what could a Red Dead Redemption 3 even be about? Rockstar would need to find a story that feels both connected and necessary, something that explores a new beginning in a world built on loss. And there are a few powerful directions it could go. One of the most popular theories among fans is that Red Dead Redemption 3 could be a prequel to Arthur's story, set during the early days of Dutch's gang. Imagine a game where we see Dutch, Hosea, and a young Arthur forming the group that would later crumble. We could see how Dutch went from an idealist, a man who genuinely believed in freedom, to the manipulative, paranoid leader we met in Red Dead 2. We could witness the birth of the gang's family dynamic, the early robberies, the trust between Arthur and Dutch before betrayal tore them apart. It would be a tragic story, we'd already know where it ends, but it would add layers to characters we already love. And it could introduce new faces, showing what life in the gang was like before the cracks began to form. That kind of prequel would feel poetic, returning to the beginning of everything before the fall. But there's another path Rockstar could take, one that pushes time forward instead of backward. A sequel to Red Dead Redemption 1. At the end of the first game, John Marston dies. His son Jack avenges him, but after that his fate becomes a mystery. A Red Dead Redemption 3 centered on Jack Marston would be incredibly powerful. A story about a man who grew up in the shadow of violence, trying to escape it, but being pulled back in by the same world that destroyed his father. Jack isn't like John or Arthur. He's educated. He's seen the brutality of the West firsthand. A game about him could explore the transition into the modern era, the early 1900s, when outlaws were replaced by organized crime, politics, and industrial power. Instead of horses and revolvers, we could see the rise of cars, trains, and early technology, a new kind of frontier. It would be less about surviving in the wilderness and more about surviving in a changing America. A story where the outlaw spirit lives on, but in a world that's already forgotten it. Of course, there's another, more mysterious possibility. Rockstar could tell an entirely new story, with new characters in a different part of the country, or even a different time period altogether. Imagine a Red Dead game set in Mexico during the Revolution, or in the Pacific Northwest, following trappers and native tribes resisting the spread of industry. It doesn't have to connect directly to Arthur or John, as long as it carries that same spirit. Men and women fighting against the dying light of freedom, caught between civilization and chaos. Because that's what Red Dead has always been about. Not just cowboys, but people standing on the edge of history, watching their world disappear. Now let's talk about reality. Will Rockstar actually make it? So far, Rockstar hasn't officially announced Red Dead Redemption 3. Their current focus is entirely on Grand Theft Auto VI, which is expected to dominate development for several more years. But here's the thing, Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of the most critically acclaimed and financially successful games of all time. It sold over 50 million copies, won countless awards, and built one of the most dedicated fan bases in gaming history. That kind of success doesn't just vanish. In interviews, Rockstar developers have hinted that there's more they could explore in the Red Dead universe. They've never ruled it out, they've only said that it would have to feel right, both narratively and emotionally. So yes, it's not just possible, it's inevitable. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. And if Red Dead Redemption 3 does happen, don't expect it anytime soon. Rockstar's games take years, sometimes close to a decade, to build. That's the cost of creating worlds that feel real, alive, and timeless. So the next time we step into the dusty boots of a gunslinger, it might be on a next-generation console, with technology that makes the world feel more immersive than ever. We might see a more reactive environment, deeper survival mechanics, and choices that carry moral weight like never before. Imagine a world where your actions truly shape how the frontier remembers you, not just in cutscenes, but in the way the world itself changes around you. Because if there's one thing Rockstar knows how to do, it's making you feel like every decision, every bullet, every ride, every goodbye matters. So will there be a Red Dead Redemption 3? Most likely, yes. But it won't be soon, and it won't be rushed. When it comes, it'll be something special. A new story carved out of the same dust, pain and beauty that made the first two games unforgettable. Maybe we'll ride again with Dutch and Hosea. Maybe we'll follow Jack Marston into the modern age. Or maybe we'll meet someone new, another soul caught between the world that was and the world that's coming. Whatever it is, one thing, for sure, it'll carry the same heart, the same tragedy, and the same reminder that nothing lasts forever. Not freedom. Not heroes. Not even legends. But as long as there's one last outlaw left standing under that endless western sky, the story of Red Dead will never truly be over. If you enjoyed this deep dive into whether Red Dead Redemption 3 could happen, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more story predictions, gaming lore, and cinematic breakdowns. And tell me in the comments, what would you want Red Dead Redemption 3 to be about? A young Dutch Van der Linde, Jack Marston's revenge, or something completely new?